welcome and see again my dear friend Fred Guttenberg, who was Jamie's dad and who has been an incredible and remarkable leader in the aftermath of the horrific tragedy that we know we're reminded of every Valentine's Day, which is tomorrow. That also coincides with the 8th tragic anniversary of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas mass killings. And this is an important opportunity for us to make sure that we can continue to keep the focus on how we can continue to fight and prevent mass tragedies, mass shootings like this, which continue unabated. There have been hundreds since the MSD mass shootings, and we have been able to make some progress, both at the federal and state levels across the country, but more progress is obviously absolutely critical. This is an anniversary that is traumatic for our whole community, for our kids who went through it, who now are actually no longer kids, they're young adults. I remember my own kids being just having entered college, and my youngest being in high school, and so many videos and text messages flying around as all of that unfolded. So why we're here today is because yesterday I reintroduced Jamie's Law. Jamie's Law is named after Jaime Guttenberg, who was tragically gunned down at the MSD high school on February 14th, 2018. And what Jamie's Law would do is apply a common sense approach to ensuring that we can continue to put obstacles in the path of someone who intends to do harm with a firearm. It is already federal law that you cannot buy a gun if you are a prohibited purchaser, a felon, a domestic violence abuser, or if you're adjudicated mentally ill. It is also already law that you are prohibited from buying ammunition if you fall into those three same categories. The only difference is that there is no enforcement and there is no background check required under federal law to ensure that you can't buy ammunition if you are a prohibited purchaser. That must end, and we have to make sure that if you try to buy ammunition, which is actually the only way that a firearm becomes deadly, is if you load it with ammunition, that you cannot do that. I have worked on safety issues for my entire legislative career, and one thing I know is that you can't prevent every tragedy, but you can make it less likely when you put obstacles in the path of someone who
Thank you for having me.
it's good to see you again, even though I know for years we've said we wish we knew each other for other reasons. Thank you for your leadership and your advocacy, and the floor is yours.
Sure. So as the Congresswoman said, tomorrow is going to be 8 years. 8 years since the Parkland shooting. 8 years since the phone call confirming my daughter was killed. 8 years since trying to convince my son, who is on the campus, that he needs to run so that he isn't also potentially a victim. 8 years of missed birthdays, 8 years of missed graduations, 8 years of missed holidays. I am someone who is fortunate that I was able to, my wife and I, stay close with all of these kids that Jamie was friends with. We're getting to watch all of these kids grow up into incredible young adults, and they're doing it without Jamie. And because of that, because of what happened to my family, I've devoted my life to doing something about gun violence in America. It doesn't make me anti-gun, it doesn't make me anti-Second Amendment, it makes me anti-gun violence. Almost 8 years ago, you and I sat here, and you explained to me the federal law around ammunition, and how there was no requirement for a background check. And that was when you and I said, Jamie's Law. It's the simplest, most sensible thing I can recommend after years and years and years of working on this is, why not extend background checks to ammunition? Why not stop a prohibited purchaser of firearms who maybe gets his gun in some illegal way, or at a gun show, or from a family member, and then just walks into the store to buy the bullets to cause harm. Why not put a stop on that? Why not put a roadblock? That's all that Jaime's law will do. I'll just end with this. I've been told by many that I'm wasting my time continuing to pursue it with this administration. I disagree. And I will tell you why. As recently as less than 2 weeks ago in Minnesota, we saw Alex Preddy get killed. I think I have his name correct. And immediately after that, we saw this White House occupant come out and say, you shouldn't be on the streets with weapons. We saw members of his administration say, you shouldn't be on the streets with weapons. And so if they recognize that we are now armed to the point of danger, over about 450 million weapons in America, let's do something about that by extending background checks to ammunition. It'll be in everybody's interest and for the good of public safety. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're happy to take any questions.
What are the prospects? Do you have any idea what things are for passage? Do you have support? What are you thinking?
We do have bicameral legislation. Senator Richard Blumenthal from Connecticut is the lead sponsor in the United States Senate. I think people recognize that this is a common sense, low impact proposal that would ensure that, again, people who are already prohibited, we're not introducing a new law that says you shouldn't be able to buy ammunition if you are a prohibited purchaser. That is already law. We're saying that if you have a law in the books, why would we not have something to ensure that it can be enforced? I sit on the Appropriations Committee. I'm a senior member of the Appropriations Committee. We would also need to make sure that we add more resources so that the instant background check process has some funding to be able to expand the personnel that can do these checks. These checks are quick, they're instantaneous, they really don't infringe in any way on people's right to purchase ammunition, certainly if they are a lawful purchaser, and doing a background check would be the flag that you need to stop a purchase. And look, there are folks that say, well, these are criminals and criminals don't follow the laws. Look, we've seen with crimes all across the country with firearms, sometimes someone uses a gun that they lawfully purchased, sometimes it's one that was unlawfully purchased, and the same goes with ammunition. Safety is about putting an obstacle in the path of someone to prevent someone else's harm. And an instant background check to enforce a law that's already on the books is absolutely a critical step to ensure that we can make it less likely that people die at the hands of someone who has a firearm. And the whole idea, in all the years I've been in the legislature, if I gave up after one or two legislative sessions or congresses and just stopped trying to pursue a good idea, I wouldn't have gotten a whole lot done. I have a long list of bills I've passed into law that didn't pass the first go around. But you have to make sure that you're building momentum, both among the public so that they can put pressure on other legislators, on their own legislators to support legislation that they know will keep people safe. And that's what we'll keep doing until we can get this into law.
To answer your question a little differently, I'll say it this way. The prospects will be a lot better if people show up and vote in November. Okay? We passed Bipartisan Safer Communities Act legislation a few years ago. If you would have asked me maybe 5 years ago, what are the prospects for that? It would have been the same answer that you're getting here today. But because people voted, we got it done. And so, and by the way, it worked. It's working. There's a reason for the historic declines that we're seeing in gun violence right now. And so I will just say, in this current Congress, it's an uphill. If people vote, we can get things done.
Thank you. Glenn?
So it looks like you filed this legislation every single Congress since 2018.
I have, yes.
Why doesn't it move? It's kind of a no-brainer.
It-
Why doesn't it move?
It should be a no-brainer, but look, the gun lobby are extremely powerful. The legislative process, to begin with, is designed by our founding fathers naturally to not make it easy and to pass legislation, and you have to build consensus. But setting that aside, the gun lobby, the gun manufacturers, the NRA, they are a powerful lobby, and they put tremendous pressure. They lie, they make things up, and they scare and intimidate members of Congress from being supportive of this. And essentially, they just go to the leadership, the Republican leadership of the House and Senate, and they say nothing that has anything to do with gun safety should come to the floor, and then it doesn't. And we have to have an election that results in a gun safety majority Congress, and we have an opportunity to do that later this year. But in the meantime, making sure that this Jaime's Law is introduced, that I have a chance to get co-sponsors on that bill, and Senator Blumenthal as well, that through advocates like Fred can tell their stories, and being able to build momentum around support for this legislation is critical.
Fred, 8 years of your activism, do you feel like you've honored your daughter's memory and all that?
You're all seeing the same reports that I'm seeing about a historic decline in gun violence. And I know, because of the work that I had a chance to do with so many other great people, the Congresswoman, other members of Congress, and activists around the country. I know, because of that work, and you all know my daughter was a competitive dancer, I know there are moms and dads right now watching their children dance because their children were not a victim of gun violence. My son played hockey, ice hockey. I know there are moms and dads right now watching their kids play ice hockey and other sports because those kids were not victims of gun violence. That reduction in gun violence means a lot to me. I know my daughter is proud of the work that we did for others. I am her voice now. And my daughter was always a beacon for good, always. And I know she's looking down and saying, Dad, you did good.
I'm sure of that. Look, keep in mind, the Republicans have a one-vote majority right now. There are lots of things that we have been able, lots of legislation and appropriations that we've been able to force to the floor or get into law through the appropriations process because the margin is so tight. And, in a way, that's good. I mean, because we have such close margins that Republicans can't do everything by themselves, like you see what's going on in Tallahassee. I mean, what's going on in Tallahassee is horrific, where you have an out-of-control attorney general in this state who, because he refused to enforce the open carry law, as a result, we have open carry in this state by default, and people are walking around with, AR-15s strapped to their bodies and guns strapped to their hip and walking into supermarkets and public places because our Attorney General won't enforce a law that's already on the books. In the legislature, they're trying to roll back the hard-fought laws that the Parkland parents were able to successfully help pass to make sure that you have to have a level of maturity as a young adult to be able to purchase a long gun or a rifle, and that's why our law requires you to be 21, upheld by a court. Republicans and Ron DeSantis are trying to roll that back. Ron DeSantis is also trying to roll back the red flag laws and ensure that when a court decides, a judge decides that someone is a danger to themselves or others, that their firearms can be taken from them and they can get them back, through a judicial process. But that is something because Ron DeSantis and the Republicans are in bed with the gun lobby, that is a battle that we will ceaselessly have to fight until we can ensure that there is a gun safety majority in Congress and in our state legislature.
And what do you make of one of the first bills that passed the House this session is rolling back the back to 18, the age to 5.
Yeah.
That part of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas law.
Listen,
8 years later, what do you make of that?
I make of it too many Floridians didn't vote. And because of that, we have a supermajority that behaves like a menace. A menace to our public safety, a menace to society. The Attorney General that was just mentioned is behaving like a menace. By not defending laws, he is working now to roll the age back without any kind of legislation. He is a menace. I'll just say this, to those in Tallahassee who every year they've tried to roll it back, by the way, and every year they have failed. Fortunately, we've had support in the Senate. It is held up in court, not just lower courts, higher courts as well, not just the 3-judge appeal court, but the full appeals court. It's consistently held up. And so the law is right. The law works. The law saves lives. Just because they have an allegiance to a gun lobby doesn't mean they should get away with what they're doing. And I would just encourage all of you to continue to call it out and call them out, because we need to turn voters out who have had enough.
Keep in mind, so many of the young people who have committed these horrific mass shootings were younger than 21 years old. I mean, anyone who has parented an 18-year-old through the age of 21 and a little bit older than that knows the very significant difference in development and maturity between an 18-year-old and a 21-year-old. And so it is imperative that we make sure that our laws are designed to keep the public safe. Putting guns in the hands of underdeveloped minds, young people who don't have the maturity to not only handle their own emotions, but make decisions that are rational. And certainly that isn't applicable to everyone. But there's a reason that we have laws that are designed to keep the public safe. We don't let 15-year-olds, we don't let 14-year-olds drive a car. We have age restrictions for many different things that would put something in the hands of a younger person that would potentially hurt others. And a gun is the deadliest.
And I'll just say this, Floridians clearly liked it, because every Republican who voted for it has stayed in office or been elevated to higher office.
Exactly.
Nobody got punished in any vote by the citizens of this state. And so, you know what? Floridians like it, and I do sure hope they come out to vote in November and making that clear.
We will continue to press for common sense gun safety reform. No one's trying to take anyone's guns away.
Nope.
Nobody's trying to do anything extreme. We just want to make sure that when our kids go to school, when people go to the movies or to a grocery store or to a concert, that they don't have to worry about getting gunned down in the street from somebody, or at an event from someone who should never have had a firearm in the first place. And if Jaime's law becomes law, then we'll have an opportunity to make that less likely. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all.